Hey up, welcome back. Now, T-minus 24 hours to question and answer session with Mr. Dyson and the Penny Pitstop. Now, this is just the day before. I wanted to say thanks so much already for the amazing amount of questions we've had. We're up to about 60 questions now with the stuff in the comments box, the stuff that's coming through Twitter and through the private mail. And that is amazing. So what we're going to have to do is farm out the best ones of that, the ones that are answerable. And some of them we just can't get to because you're asking for lengthy explanations and it's going to eat too much of the video. So we'll come to those things in other videos. There's one I'm going to make a video of, and that will be slightly in the future. But mostly this is about simple questions, and some of them have been great. It's been incredible to discover that actually there's a lot of questions out there that go unanswered. A lot of things that people don't know that one might assume they do. I said a long time ago in a video that, sorry if this is an egg sucking session, and everybody came on pretty much and said, well, he's not, I didn't know how to do it. So sometimes when you do something, you think that other people know it, they don't necessarily do. So when you can put it out on the internet, then it's more information for everybody. Now, all I want to do today, this is just one day before, and I haven't put up a video this week. Shift patterns have killed it this week. I've been working 7 till 7 basically, or not getting home till 8, so I haven't had a chance to do any videos, and that's why I wanted to rev this up, give the week for these questions to build up so we get some really good ones. So we're looking forward to a great show. We're going to make that tomorrow morning, Sunday. It's now Saturday morning, and then by Sunday evening we should have that up and online. After we've done the video, we're going to have a little ride, so that's going to go in the can. We're going to get the Triumph out, try and make some noise, and hopefully you can enjoy that as well on the next few days after that. But for now, there's some question, one particular question that's come up 3 times in the private mailbox, and it's from brand new mechanics, new guys that are just getting on their bikes, just starting to work on things, gone out and bought a very basic toolkit. And the question that keeps coming up in various forms of wording is, how do we do up nuts and bolts, screws, whatever, tight enough so they don't come undone, but not so tight that we damage them? Some guys are just worried that something's going to come undone, and that's a big concern, so they're doing them up too tight and they're snapping things off and stripping threads. Others, they're doing them up, like I say, don't lean on it, so they're doing them up and they're finding a week later they've come loose. So I just want to show you one thing. The major thing, I mean, that fear is the major cause of thread damage. It really is. If you open a bolt up and you find a little piece of wire comes out with it, or you take a bolt out and there's swarf on the end, you know that thread's damaged, and it's damaged because someone's over tightened it, or they've put the bolt in cockeyed and they've just kept winding on it. There's lots of things you can do, and what I'm talking about today is workshop practice. I'm not going to go about it too much. I want to show you how to repair a male thread. The male thread being a bolt or fastener. Female thread's a different thing. You need a helicoil kit for that, and I'll come to that. I'm going to make a video on that very shortly. But I'm going to do a little bit of workshop practice in the next few videos. Just things that you know in your workshop that if you do them, they'll prevent you problems. Things like using a torque wrench. We covered that in the video we did on changing the shocks. And looking up the torque settings. You can do it on the internet. You don't need a manual. Everybody's got settings on the internet. There's forums for every bike, every genre and make of bike. Look them up. You'll see the torque settings there. Get a torque wrench, do things up, one click, 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 correct torque setting, and leave it alone. Invest 50 pence or 10 cents, whatever, in some marker paint. I mean, that's nail varnish. Go to the chemist, just dot the head of the bolt and it won't move. If it moves, you'll see the dots moved. You can put a dot on the bolt and a dot on the bike, and they're interlined. So when one moves, you'll see it. Little things like that, anything but over tighten it. Now what I'm going to show you now is how to use a die, thread cutting die, to repair a bolt. And first of all, we're going to damage the bolt, and I'll show you exactly what I mean. So stick around, stay tuned, I'm going to show you this. Alright, basic stuff. Now, that is an ordinary straightforward 10 by 1.5. So it's metric, 10mm, that's the thickness of the shaft there, and 1.5 is the pitch of the thread. Now this bolt, you can see a black kind of deposit in the thread and some shiny threads at the end, which I've cleaned. And what that means, we've got a nut here that's the same size. When we screw it on, it gets to this black area, which is cack, and becomes incredibly hard, in fact almost impossible to do up by hand. Now that's dirt and filth. I think it could even be paint in that. And that thread, if you wind it into a soft aluminium thread, that could cause damage if it's too thick and too tough. So it's good to clean the thread up. And what we use for that is a tap. Sorry, it's not a tap, idiot. It's a die. That's a die, tap and die. The tap cuts the thread. That's what a tap. That's what a tap looks like. That taps the thread out. inside the hole, that taps the female thread, and that cuts the male thread on the shaft. So what we're going to do with this, pop it in a vise, use the flats of the bolt to hold it in the vise. Let's bring you in a bit. There we go. Now, simple process to clean this out. What that is, if you've never seen one of these, you can invest in a little set. Penny got me this for Christmas. I've always had lots of these, odds and ends, but not a proper set. And all that does is these little sharp threads in here, they're a cutting tool, and that cuts into the metal. But what it also does, because it's the correct size, if we just pop it on nice and dry, no grease or anything, make sure we line it up nice and gently, and that will start to screw down the thread. Now, because the cutting tool is extremely sharp and it's extremely hard metal, it will work its way down and it will start to, you can feel, now there's dirt there that you can't, I don't know if you can hear it, like a cracking noise as it goes down. Come off a bit. So what we're doing now is we're running a dye. I'm running a dye down the thread to clean all that stuff. You can wire brush it as much as you like, but nothing has the same effect as this, on and off, until you get to the bottom of the thread. And there we are. And that spins off. Now what that has done, I'll show you the bolt up nice and close. There's a deposit here of all the paint that was in that thread. And look at the thread now. Nice and shiny and clean, pretty much. And then, nut spins on, nice and easy. A clean thread is a healthy thread and it won't cause problems. Remember, engine casings are soft aluminium. Now, what I'm also going to do is, I'm going to cut a little bit more thread. I'm going to show you exactly, just quick, what this tool can do. So the thread goes down to there, and I'm going to cut some more of this. I'm going to extend the thread. And the reason you ever need to do that, or the time you might do that, is when that bolt bottoms out. So you screw that into something, but you haven't got enough thread. You've gone up to this shaft, the shank there. So all we do with that, pop it back in. Now this time, I'm going to pop a little blob of grease around the bottom of the thread here. What that does, as you cut the metal, because we're actually going to cut into the metal now, cut the steel itself away and make a thread, actually create new thread. So you need a bit of grease there to lubricate that action. Now that gets to the point where it stops. Now cutting a thread, there's a proper action to it to make that a nice clean thread. We get to the bottom, there we are. Right, that's as far as the bolt goes. You can feel it. I want to just bring the camera right in so you can actually see this real. So the action is to just push against each one and turn it down. It'll find its own way and then come back. So cut forward, then turn back. So cut forward, half a turn, and then come back. And you'll hear a little cracking noise, and then work that thread that you've just cut. We'll cut another half, and then back. There we are. And all that's done is cut another probably 6 or 7 mil of thread, and the grease on there takes away all the little bits of swarf. As you can see there, clean that up. I've actually, where are we? Sorry, there we are. I've cut probably 3 or 4 more threads into that to make it a longer bolt. There we are. Right, also, now I'm going to show you what happened to the damaged thread. Alright, now that's all cleaned up, I'll just show you, there we are, the extra few bits of thread. Nut goes on a bit further. So if you need to pinch something that's a little bit thinner, you can extend the thread with your die. Now, this might look horrid, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to deliberately damage that and show you how to repair it. So I'm going to pop it in a vise. Knock it right in. And this is pretty horrid. But what it will do is that it's pretty much wrecked that thread now, and there's no way you'll get that bolt on if you try to wind the bolt on, you'll wreck the thread in there. So if you've got a bolt that's got damage on it, it doesn't have to look like that. It might be a little bit of the thread just crossed over, but it's the same principle. Here we go, pop the bolt in. Little smear of grease on the job. That just lubricates everything, and any bits of swarf, it carries them out of the way. Okay, die wrench on top. Pick the first one up. Now you'll feel the little bits of damage as the cutting tool goes down and cleans them up. And you just work the die downwards, half a turn at a time. And it doesn't really matter how badly damaged the thread is unless you've absolutely torn it right off. And the idea of coming backwards on yourself is the little bits of metal, the little curls of swarf that you're cutting off, as you come backwards, it snaps them off. It stops them staying as part of the metal and then bunging up the tool. Now you just repairing a thread, just smartening it up. You can buy a thing called a thread file, or thread file, which is there we are. And a thread file is a good option, but there's nothing like a die. And there we are. One finely repaired thread, which, just wipe the grease off that, is all back to good as gold. And you can now spin a nut straight back on that. You may not always be able to repair it, but once you've got a tap and die set, you can do all kinds of things. Right, there we go. Okay, so there we are. That's your average comprehensive metric tap and die set, and that was about £29 I think I paid for that. Penny did. And you can buy those from any decent tool shop. That's a Clark one, and they are a worthy investment. Now that is one way of doing it. If you've got a thread in an engine casing that's completely wrecked, there's something else, and this is just a taster for now, called a helicoil kit. Now if you've never dealt with helicoils, they are a proper engineering thread repair. An actual helicoil is that. It's a little difficult to show you with the fingers. It's a little tiny thing that you screw in. Quite simply, you drill a bigger hole. Once you've got a thread in your engine casing, you drill a bigger hole, tap that hole out, and then you use a special tool here which inserts a new thread into that engine casing. But that is for another video. Things like thread and tap and die kits, helicoil kits, they're all worthy. Let's bring it back up. There we are. So the idea is that I just want to give you some insight into workshop practice. If you've got a tap and die kit, you can repair threads and you can keep yourself going. You've got a torque wrench, you can do things up correctly. If you've got some marker paint, you can keep an eye on them. And that instant maintenance, constant maintenance, should I say, is very important. So we are going to cut it there. 24 hours now to the Q&A. Can't wait. It's going to be an absolute scream. You will see that when it happens, Mr. Dyson and I, we tend not to be able to take life too seriously for very long. So we're hoping it's not going to descend into stupidity. It probably will, but it's going to be a load of fun and we're going to get lots of questions answered. Okay, so there we are. Stick around. Join us tomorrow for Q&A. Ride safe. I'll see you next time.